Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing y'all how I do my makeup for cold winter weather. So we're going to be talking about how we can keep our skin looking nice and glowy, nice and hydrated when we're out in cold, dry air. And I'm going to be sharing some cold weather makeup tips for those of us who are 40 and over, aka the grown and gorgeous crew. So if you're here for the first time, thank you so much for stopping by and welcome to the channel. My name is SonyaNicole and I post new makeup content every week, including some stuff for makeup lovers who are 40 and over. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, please make sure you subscribe while you're here. I would love to have you join the channel and I would really appreciate the support. And if you are part of the grown and gorgeous crew, make sure you hashtag me in the comments. Okay, you guys, let's jump right into it. Okay, I already started putting something on over here. I didn't realize that I didn't connect my microphone, so I'm going to show y'all what I put on in just a minute, but I'm just going to kind of start from the beginning. So I have oily skin, but my skin does tend to get a little bit drier in colder months, but no matter what your skin type is, but especially if you have like really dry skin, you definitely want to make sure that you have on adequate moisturizer. Make sure your skin is nice and hydrated before you go in with makeup, and you also want to put on some sunscreen. So just in case you're interested, this is what I put on my face in the morning. This is the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Gel Lotion. This one is SPF 50. This also comes in SPF 30. I keep buying the 51 just because that's what I started out with, so I just keep sticking with the one that I bought. But this is my moisturizer slash sunscreen, so I have this on my face. And then I already put some of this L'Oreal Lumi Glotion on this side of my face. That's why one side of my face looks so glowy. This one is in the shade Rose Gold and it comes in 3 different shades. So even though I have oily skin, when I'm doing my makeup for really cold, like harsh weather, I do like to still give my skin an extra boost of hydration on top of my moisturizer. So this is basically a liquid highlighter and it's going to be kind of like a 2-in-1 product for me today. I'm using it primarily for extra hydration on my skin, but it's also going to give me like a little bit of glow underneath my foundation. Now you can just like mix this directly in with your foundation too, and that will of course give you a little bit more of a glow. I like to put it on underneath the foundation because I feel like the glow is just a bit more subtle that way. So that's what I already have on this side of my face. And as you can see, it gives me like a kind of like a pearlescent look all over my face. So moving on to foundation, today I'm going to be using the Fenty Beauty Hydrating Foundation. For those of you who kind of like prefer matte finishes, hydrating foundations, they don't necessarily mean that they're dewy. Like there's a lot of foundations out there that are really nice and hydrating for the skin, but they don't necessarily give you like that dewy wet look. But you want to make sure that you're picking something that's going to like aid and keeping your skin nice and moist when you're out in like really cold, dry air. And for those of us who are a little older, we also want to pick a foundation that's like really nice and flexible on the skin. So something that's not gonna like really lock up on us and something that's gonna kind of like move with our skin. And I think this one is a good option for that. And you also don't want to like pack the product onto your skin. So I went in with what I think is like a half a pump, and I'm gonna spread this around and just make sure, like if you want to build your makeup up to full coverage, make sure you build it up. Don't go right in with like, you know, much more than you might need, because you can always build on top of it. You don't want to go in and put too much on and then you have to deal with trying to remove some of that. So this is like pretty much medium coverage. This is pretty much what I do with my foundation. But again, if you want to go in with more than that, you know, build on top of that as much as you want, but only put on as much as you need to get the level of coverage that you want. Like don't just, you know, pack the makeup onto your face. If you have the ColourPop Pretty Fresh foundation, this one is a really good option too. This particular shade is just a little too dark for me, but if I had a really good shade match in here, this would actually be my top choice for a routine like this. I think this one is like a really like flexible and like really emollient type of foundation, but I didn't use this one. It's just a little too dark for me, but the Fenty one is a good option too. But I would just say whatever foundation you choose, just make sure it's one that is water-based and one that is hydrating, because you definitely don't want to use something that might further like dry your skin out if you're going to be outside when it's like cold and dry. Okay, so this is what my foundation looks like, and you should be able to tell that I have a little glow going on. That's mainly because of this. So I'm going to do my brows off camera, and then I'm going to do like a really quick eyeshadow look, and then we'll move on to concealer. Okay, so moving on to eyeshadow, my brows are done, and I already have a little bit of eye primer on. So I'm doing like a really simple eye look for today, but the eyeshadow that I'm using is something that's going to help with giving me like a glowy look for the winter time. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow jewel pot in the shade Walk of No Shame. So this is like a really like bronzy, almost like rose gold colored eyeshadow. So I chose this one today specifically for the color, and this is like really easy to use. So I'm just picking some of it up on like a really dense like packing brush, and I'm just going to pack most of it on my lid and then let it kind of fan out as I get further up. And this is like a kind of like a one and done type of eyeshadow, so it's like a really easy eyeshadow look for today. So I am going to also put on a little bit of bronzer on my eyes when I get to the bronzer step, but that's basically it for the eyeshadow. Very simple look for today. So we're going to move on to concealer and come back to the eyes a little bit later on. So I'm going to be using my Too Faced Born This Way concealer. This one is in the shade Mocha. Now, out of the two concealers that I typically use, I have this one and I have my Estee Lauder concealer. The Estee Lauder concealer does give me a bit more coverage. It is a little thicker. It's a little more creamy, but I do find that this one is a bit more hydrating, and it also does have good coverage, just not quite as much coverage as the Estee Lauder one. But because I'm focusing on keeping my skin like nice and hydrated for today, I'm gonna go in with this one. And then I'm just putting this on like the same way that I normally would. I'm putting it in the usual spots. And just like I always do, I'm gonna take my foundation brush to blend out on my chin and my forehead. And then I'm going to switch to my concealer brush to blend under my eye and around my mouth. This is a foundation brush, but I use it for my concealer. Okay, I'm going to set just my under eyes for now. So I'm going to be using the Coty Airspun loose face powder. This one is in the shade Honey Beige. It's like a pinkish tone powder. So I definitely change up the way that I set my under eyes for like really cold weather. Normally I would set with a damp sponge because I feel like using a sponge is like nice and flat and you can just press the powder on. And then with it being damp, you're adding like some moisture into your skin. But I feel like when I'm going out in like really cold, really dry air, my under eyes, just like with the rest of my face, they tend to get drier. So I just don't want to put as much powder on my face, especially my under eyes. So I'm just going to dip the brush into the powder a little bit, and I'm just going to lightly tap my powder onto my under eye area. So if you feel like your under eyes get like a little drier like mine, just lightly tap the powder on like just enough to set it, but you're not, you know, packing that powder onto your under eye. So before I set the rest of my face, I'm going to go in with one of the new cream blushes from Rare Beauty. This one is in the shade Nearly Apricot. The inside of it got really dirty, but I'm just going to put some of this on my cheeks. I would say if you prefer powder blushes, to me a blush can be either cream or powder for like cold weather, but you know, anything that's creamy, that's just going to help keep your skin a bit more hydrated compared to something that's dry like a powder. But for your blush, you're not putting that like all over your face. So I feel like if you really wanted to use a powder blush, that's fine. I'm just using this because this is like my third time using it and I do really like it. But also if you use a cream blush, that is going to help with like the glowy aspect on your face as well. Okay, and now I'm going to set the rest of my face. So I'm going to be using the Fenty Beauty Powder Foundation in the shade 340. So just like what we did with our under eyes, I normally would use a damp sponge to set my face. I like taking the bottom of the sponge and putting it in the powder and like really pressing it into my face. But again, I feel like for cold, harsh, dry air, I don't want to put on quite as much powder. So I definitely want to make sure that my makeup is set, but I just don't want to use quite as much powder as I normally would. So for today, I'm just going to use my fluffy brush and just lightly tap that powder all over my face. And I'm just making sure that I'm getting, you know, all of my foundation, making sure everything is nice and set. But again, I just don't want to pack too much of that powder on top of my hydrating foundation. So it is the middle of winter, but I do still want to have like a glow and like a warmth to my face. So I am going to be using some bronzer today, but I don't want to necessarily look like I'm like sitting on the beach in the middle of summer. So I'm not going to be using as much of a like bronzy, I guess warm tone bronzer as I normally would. Today I'm going in with the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. So compared to the other two bronzers that I normally would use, I'll either use the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer or I'll actually use one of the Fenty foundations in a darker shade. Those two are a little bit darker, a little bit warmer than this one, and this one also has a little bit of a sheen to it. So I hope y'all can make that out on camera. So with this having a sheen to it, that'll help give my skin like a healthy looking glow. But again, I don't want to look like super warm and super bronze like I would in the summertime. So I'm going in with a nice subtle bronzer that will also give my skin like a little bit of glow to it. So I'm just gonna apply this the way that I normally would. And the sheen on this one is like really subtle. Like you might be looking and you feel like you can't make it out, but it does have, you know, just like a hint of sheen to it. I'm also taking some of the bronzer and I'm going to finish up my eyeshadow with this, and this will also add a little bit more glow to my face. So all I'm going to do is pick some of it up on a fluffy brush and I'm just going to blend around that eyeshadow that I have on my lid. So I don't bother with any type of setting spray when I'm doing my makeup for really cold weather. I just feel like the cold weather alone is enough to like set my makeup in place. We did already put a little bit of powder on to make sure that our liquid products don't move around. And I feel like for me, especially since my skin gets a little drier in colder air, I feel like that's all the setting I need. So I don't really bother with setting spray. I just don't think it's necessary when the weather is like really cold. So I didn't put any spray on, and I also went ahead and put my eyeliner and my mascara on. So now I'm going to put on a little bit of an inner corner highlight for my eyeshadow. And I'm going to be using the Sandcastle highlighter from one of the Fenty Kilowatt Duos. And I'm just going to put just a tiny bit of this in the inner corner and just let it slightly drag up onto the lid. And I just always feel like an inner corner highlight, it really helps to like open your eye and just also give like a little gradient right here for your eye look. Now me personally, because I have that liquid highlighter on underneath my foundation, I don't really wear like cheek highlight these days, but I also think for today especially, the liquid highlighter underneath the foundation is enough glow for me on my cheeks. But if you wanted to use another highlighter here, again, just like what we talked about with the blush, I feel like if you want to go in with some kind of powder highlighter, I think that that's okay for a type of routine like this, because you're not putting that powder like on a large area of your face. But if you use a liquid highlighter, that will again just add like an extra boost of hydration into that area on your face. But I'm not going to be bothering with cheek highlight today either, because lately I I just haven't been wearing it. So we're going to finish everything off with some lips. So I would say definitely use something that has like a creamy finish on your lips, or maybe like a lip liner and a lip gloss. Those are going to be much better options for really cold air compared to something like a matte lipstick, especially a liquid matte lipstick. You want to use something that's going to be really pliable and flexible, just like what we talked about with the complexion products. You want to use something that is going to like move around with your lips instead of like lock up on you. So I would avoid anything that has like a matte finish for like really cold weather. But regardless of what you're going to be putting on your lips, make sure you have some sort of protectant on underneath your lipstick. So I usually put on my lip balm before I start doing my makeup, and if I feel like I have too much of it on when I'm ready to go in with my lipstick, I'll blot most of it off, but I want to make sure that I have a thin layer of it left on so that that will protect my lips underneath the lipstick. So I put on my Nivea lip balm before I started doing my makeup, and I'm just going to go right on top of that with my lipstick. And for today, I'm going to be using one of my Too Faced Natural Nude lipsticks, and this one is in the shade Girl Code. So that's what the color of it looks like. And I'm going to finish everything off with this. This is just like a really nice nude lipstick. I feel like you can never go wrong with a nude, but I also think this will look really nice with my eyeshadow for today. These lipsticks have coconut oil in them, and there's some other ingredient that helps it feel like more of like a lip balm on your lips. These are really, really comfortable. Okay, you guys, and we are all done doing our makeup for cold winter weather. So let me know if you have any cold weather tips to suggest to everybody in the comments. Let me know down below. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video today. If you did, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe before you head out, and I'll definitely see y'all back here for my next one. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.